Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to your news edition. These are the headlines. The President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, receives the U.S. President's Senior Advisor for Africa, Arab Affairs and Middle East, Mas'ad Boulos. The President of the Republic receives the President of the France-Algerie Association, Ségolène Royal. As part of the efforts to boost strategic projects aimed at achieving sustainable development, Algeria launches the first iron ore cargo trains from Garat Bilat mine. French media continue to broadcast hostile messages against Algeria, offering platforms to certain French political figures, particularly from the far right, promoting discriminatory and racist speech. A new security operation carried out by Spanish authorities reveals Morocco's continuous role as a key hub in international drug trafficking networks. Welcome back. The President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, received Mas'ad Boulos, Senior Advisor to the American President, and the delegation accompanying him. Following the meeting, Mas'ad Boulos affirmed the mutual will to consolidate the bilateral cooperation, notably in reinforcing peace and security. We'll listen.
إنه لشرف عظيم لي أن أعود إلى الجزائر وأنا ألمس مجددا حفاوة الضيافة التي يتميز بها الشعب الجزائري.
It is a great honor for me to return to Algeria and once again experience the warm hospitality for which the Algerian people are known. I would also like to express my gratitude to President Abdelmajid Tebboune for the opportunity to engage in another confidential and constructive discussion. Together with President Tebboune, I reaffirmed our shared commitment to strengthening our cooperation, particularly with regard to promoting peace and addressing security and regional concerns. We also reiterated the significant potential for expanding our trade relations, building on the solid foundations of economic cooperation between our two countries. Prior to this meeting, I had the opportunity to meet with the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Ahmed Attaf, to discuss our joint efforts to support peace and stability, including the Sahel region. We also met with the Minister of State and Minister of Energy and Mines, Mohamed Arqab, to explore new avenues for commercial partnership and how the United States and Algeria can work together to achieve mutual benefit. This visit has strengthened my confidence in the strength of U.S.-Algerian relations and in our shared commitment to build a more peaceful and prosperous future for our two countries and for the region. Thank you.
لبلدينا وللمنطقة وشكرا.
The President of the Republic also received the President of the France-Algerie Association, Ségolène Royal. The bilateral meeting was then extended in the presence of the Director of the Cabinet of the Presidency of the Republic, Boualem Boualem, the Minister of Culture and Arts, Malika Bendouda, and the Advisor of the President of the Republic in charge of diplomatic affairs, Ammar Abba. Ségolène Royal affirmed that renewing the Algerian-French friendship is a duty for the benefit of young generations. We listen.
I am deeply honored by the audience granted to me by President Abdelmajid Tebboune, which demonstrates his willingness for dialogue, provided that respect and consideration are also present. I came to listen and learn into areas economic creativity and culture because the Association for Friendship between France and Algeria, which I preside over, has been working for more than 60 years to foster dialogue, friendship, exchange mutual understanding and the pursuit of shared opportunities. And precisely to build these shared opportunities, which, as I have observed, are numerous, the business leaders I met this morning highlighted the enormous potential represented by the excellent training of employees and collaborators here in the country, their motivation and their desire to create and succeed. This is why rebuilding the friendship between France and Algeria is a duty we owe, first and foremost, to the younger generations on both sides who only seek to develop their projects together.
Que nous avons d'abord envers les jeunes générations des deux rives, qui ne demandent qu'à développer ensemble leurs projets.
Wayal affirmed that the history between Algeria and France is full of blood, but it's a history of resistance and it's time to put an end to the provocations of those who refuse the development of Algeria.
L'histoire entre la France et l'Algérie est une histoire.
The history between France and Algeria is a wounded one, marked by domination and unacceptable violence, but also by struggles, resistance, intertwined destinies, families built across both shores, and shared economic and cultural projects, partnerships, and potentials that have too often been overlooked or ignored and that we must bring to light. We must push back against petty political posturing, provocations from those who do not want Algeria to move forward and who still refuse to acknowledge Algeria's national sovereignty, its diplomatic role in the world, its decision of non-alignment, and its complete freedom to choose its alliances and its causes. I deeply respect this, and I hope that the French authorities will ultimately come to respect Algeria's national sovereignty as well. Some do not want Algeria to carry out projects of excellence, even as it is doing so today. That is why I held friendship between our countries and our peoples must come to fruition. I wish for it with all my heart. It will come. I am certain to unleash the desire to build, to create, to understand, to invent, in short, to shape happy life paths. We must tear down walls in order to build bridges of knowledge and respect through dialogue. Memory is never a source of entitlement, nor a hereditary guilt. It is the truth of wounds and traumas that must be named, repaired, and apologized for. The goal is to build together a never again, precisely so that we may look towards the future. And the first step that France must take, one that should have been taken long ago, is the restitution of cultural property and archives, and I will devote all my strength to this. First, the objects belonging to Emir Abdel Qadir and other Algerian figures, then the remains of all the shuhada or martyrs preserved at the Musée de l'Homme, so that they may be returned and laid to rest with dignity. As President Tebboune has stated, then all the archives kept, which have partly been digitized and can therefore be returned very quickly. The Canon of Algiers, which is currently in Brest, all of this was moreover confirmed by the Joint History and Memory Commission in its report of November 22nd, 2023. I would like to add, because this is a field I know well, having served as Minister of Energy, the archives and the complete file on the nuclear test carried out in the Sahara in order to assess the full extent of the damage and to repair it. I would like to quote Emir Abdel Qadir, who wrote, "Man is great because he knows, and noble because he acts." And thus, it would be an act of nobility to return to the Algerian people the objects that belong to them. This is what I will say to President Emmanuel Macron upon my return, to urge him to act in this direction, just as he himself stated at the beginning of his term in office. For memory, when properly expressed, soothes, compels and elevates. It enables us to build the future. Indeed, it is by building the future that we will change the way each of our two magnificent countries is seen.
En construisant le futur, que l'on va changer le regard sur chacun de nos deux magnifiques pays.
Ségolène Royal also affirmed that the relations between the two countries can be innovative for the upcoming generations.
La relation entre nous peut devenir,
The relationship between us can become, of that I am certain, creative and enthusiastic, with generations who live passionately and innovate, and with businesses that cooperate across both shores. And what more beautiful rapprochement than culture as well. Tomorrow I will visit, together with the Minister of Culture, whom I thank, the Bastion 23 Museum and the Ali Lapointe Museum. We have also discussed upcoming cultural events that will give me the opportunity to return, which already fills me with great joy. We share a common destiny because we share a common heritage, the Mediterranean. We therefore have intertwined civilization that nourish and enrich one another. I would like to conclude with this beautiful thought from the Algerian Saint Augustin, born in Tagaste, who wrote, "Truth is like a lion, set it free and it will defend itself. So let us free the truth from our past and build a new alliance through shared projects on an equal footing."
Et construisons une nouvelle alliance par des projets communs d'égal à égal.
Prime Minister Sifi Gharieb chaired the government meeting on the review of an executive decree project on the procedures for the creation of agricultural cooperatives and their management. This text aims at modernizing the legal and organizational frameworks of the agricultural cooperatives in Algeria in order to reinforce their role in the agricultural development, food security, and rural development promotion. Following the instructions of the President of the Republic, the government reviewed projects of the 2026-2028 roadmap for each sector before submitting them to the Council of Ministers for approval. The government listened to a presentation on the sector of industry for the diversification of national industry and increasing its contribution to the GDP and its strategic vision for the reinforcement of the national ecosystem. Prime Minister reminded the general orientations on the sectorial roadmap's preparation methods, notably on the identification of the sector's strategic axes, the definition of operational tools to implement the strategy, adapting the goals of the strategy with the available human and financial resources, and the estimation of the completion time. Following the instructions of the President of the Republic, Prime Minister Sifi Harib chaired the first session of the National Council of Investment as part of the dispositions of the Law 2218 related to investment. The meeting was about the evaluation of the national system for investment promotion to reinforce efficiency. The Council reviewed the implementation level of the legal dispositions and the measures aiming to improve it by meeting the expectations of the investors. The meeting was marked by the official launch of the elaboration of the National Strategy for Investment to define the orientations and priorities of public action in terms of attractiveness and promote investment on mid and long term. The first train transporting raw iron from Garaj Bilat towards Bashar and Oran was launched under the supervision of the Minister of Interior, Local Authorities and Transport, accompanied by the Minister of Public Works and Basic Infrastructure and the State Secretary in charge of mines. The train station of Garaj Bilat was also inaugurated. We'll listen to the Minister. The State Minister for Foreign Affairs, National Community Abroad and African Affairs, Ahmed Attaf, received Masad Boulos, Senior Advisor to the American President for Africa, Arab Affairs and Middle East, who is on an official visit to Algeria. The State Minister held a bilateral meeting with Boulos before extending it to the Algerian and American delegations. The two parties discussed the ways of reinforcing the bilateral relations. They highlighted the importance of reinforcing the strategic dialogue between the two countries and reaffirmed the necessity to continue the positive dynamic in the bilateral partnership, notably in the economic sector. The two parties exchanged points of view regarding main issues in the Arab and African worlds, notably in Libya, the Sahel region, and Western Sahara. As part of his official visit to Tunisia to take part in the ministerial meeting of Libya's neighboring countries, the State Minister for Foreign Affairs, National Community Abroad and African Affairs, Ahmed Attaf, was received by Tunisian President Kais Saied. Attaf conveyed the salutations of the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, and his will to reinforce the bilateral cooperation. It was the occasion to review the axes of the bilateral partnership and the results of the 23rd session of the Algerian-Tunisian High Committee. We'll listen.
This meeting had a special significance as our country is experiencing in these days the meaningful echoes of a lasting memory recorded in the annals of our shared history, a memory dear to both the Algerian and Tunisian peoples, and one that embodies the finest expressions of brotherhood, solidarity and mutual sacrifice between them. It is the anniversary of the event of Said Sidi Youssef. On this occasion, I had the honor of conveying to President Kais Saied the greetings of his brother President Abdelmajid Tebboune, as well as his sincere congratulations on this cherished anniversary. And just as they attach great importance to strengthening relations between Algeria and Tunisia, the leaders of our two brotherly countries are equally committed to safeguarding the security and stability of their shared neighborhood and the common space to which they both directly belong.
أيما حرص على أمن واستقرار جوار بلدينا وفضاء انتمائهم المشترك والمباشر.
Libya's neighboring countries have reaffirmed their shared commitment to supporting a Libyan-led political solution as part of continued coordination to help end the crisis and preserve Libya's unity and sovereignty. Basma Far with more details.
The ministerial meeting of Libya's neighboring countries, Algeria, Tunisia and Egypt, held in Tunis, underscored the importance attached to the Libyan file and the commitment of these states to supporting a political solution led by Libyans away from foreign interference and polarization that hinder a swift settlement.
وليس لنا من غاية في ذلك غير الرغبة.
Our sole objective is to support our Libyan brothers and sisters, help them overcome the crisis, restore unity and reach the political settlement sought by all.
ولم شملهم وتوحيد كلمتهم.
Libya's neighboring countries are working to support the reconciliation process by promoting dialogue and consensus with the aim of holding presidential and parliamentary elections, unifying political, military and economic institutions, and meeting the aspiration of the Libyan people.
فدولنا الثلاث هي الأكثر تضرراً من تداعيات.
Our three countries are the most affected by the repercussions and complexities of the Libyan crisis. They are also the closest to its realities and to all its parties, and they remain the most committed and sincere in seeking to end the crisis while preserving Libya's sovereignty, unity and the integrity of its land, people and institutions.
على سيادة ليبيا ووحدتها أرضاً وشعباً ومؤسسات.
The regular meeting of the tripartite mechanism also falls within the framework of ongoing consultations among the three countries to monitor developments in Libya.
Major General Mohammed Saleh Ben Bisha, Secretary General of the Ministry of National Defense, received at the garrison circle of Janet in the 4th Military Region the Vice Admiral Ottaviani Giantinto, Italian National Director of Armaments. They co-chaired a 16th session of the Joint Committee of the Algerian-Italian cooperation in the technical and military sectors and the defense industry. The two parties discussed issues of mutual interest. The president of the Algerian Economic Renewal Council, Kamel Moula, met with the president of the France-Algeria Association, Ségolène Royal, on the sideline of her visit to Algeria. They discussed the cooperation perspectives in the sectors of trade and investment. Royal expressed the will of our association to adopt a constructive approach between the two parties. Moula, for his part, affirmed that Algeria's economic priorities require an immediate and concrete response, particularly in improving national institutions. The executive decree setting the standard status of scientific and technological public institutions was published in the latest edition of the official Gazette. For the first time, the permanent researchers, hospital university teaching and research staffs, and students from higher education and scientific research institutions can now carry out research works with intellectual property rights by using the resources of the institution. For the other individual research works, they can submit a request for intellectual property right protection. In French television debates, Algeria is less examined than framed, shaped by narratives that blur the line between journalism and ideology while reinforcing fear, stigma and exclusion. Melissa Lila Balaman.
Algeria is a fixture in French media, rarely on its own terms. Across public and private television, the same commentators are routinely invited to discuss immigration, security, or colonial history. In these debates, Algeria is repeatedly framed as a problem, through narratives marked by stigma and simplification. One figure dominates, Éric Zemmour, despite multiple French court convictions for incitement to hatred and racist insults. He enjoyed years of sustained media exposure. His message follows a familiar script, linking immigration, Algeria, and national decline into a single, recurrent narrative.
What I condemn is ultra-thuggery, ultra-immigration, and I would say the sheer outrageous cynicism of the media and the politicians in the whole affair. That is to say, these young people and the rest of immigration must stop coming. All of them, Christine, all of them, because they have no place here, I repeat. They are thieves, they are murderers, they are rapists, that's all they are.
Ils sont assassins, ils sont violeurs, c'est tout ce qu'ils sont.
Much of the French media no longer informs, it labels, targets, and fuels fear day after day. Behind claims of free speech or plain speaking, the same patterns persist. Isolated incidents are magnified. Immigration is fused with criminality. Entire communities are cast under suspicion. The result is the manufacture of an internal enemy. Media outlets become political actors serving exclusion. The impact is measurable. Anti-Muslim hatred in France is now widespread. Over the past 5 years, 66% of Muslims report experiencing racist behavior. Islamophobic acts alone rose by 72% in 1 year. Meanwhile, more measured voices, including Jean-Michel Apathy, have been sidelined, restricted, or invited less often. Despite their experience and fact-based approach, the imbalance exposes a clear bias. Extreme, sometimes openly xenophobic narratives are amplified. Moderation is marginalized. In private media, particularly on certain 24-hour news channels, this editorial line is openly embraced. Panels are uniform, debates are steered, language is deliberately alarmist. Public broadcasters are not exempt, despite their mandate to uphold balance and rigor. Over time, ideas once confined to the far right are normalized as opinion. Stigmatization becomes debate. Algeria becomes a case argued against. What is now at stake is ethical and democratic. The task is to return to basics, inform without stigmatizing, debate without humiliating, and prevent information from becoming a weapon in a French society increasingly fractured and inward-looking.
The security operation carried out in Spain that targeted the criminal network specialized in drug trafficking through maritime way via the Pacific Ocean revealed that Morocco plays a major role in the drug transit to Europe. According to a statement of the Spanish Ministry of Interior shared by the Horas 24 channel, the operation carried out in 2 phases in the Andalusia and Canary Islands led to the arrest of more than 100 people of the criminal network that entered 57 tons of cocaine to Europe during the last year. The investigations showed that this network used rapid boats from the Andalusian River, Canary Islands and Morocco to reach the Atlantic Ocean, where drug was transferred to several European countries. The European countries are now convinced that Morocco endangers their security. Across several Moroccan cities, demolition operations are reshaping entire neighborhoods. Carried out by the Makhzen, these actions are forcing families out of their homes and cutting off vital resources of livelihood. That's my father.
In Morocco, the lives of hundreds of families have been suddenly disrupted. Wide-ranging demolition campaigns led by the Makhzen are targeting residential zone. The consequences are immediate. Elderly residents, women and children have been left without shelter. Many now face the cold streets with no protection and no clear future.
I sleep in the streets. At night, I knock on people's doors, but no one opens. I am an elderly woman, and I live in fear. They gave us 15 days to move out. Then they destroyed our houses and threw our things outside.
For many families, these shops represented their only income. Their closure has plunged households into economic hardships and a situation that continues to leave families in a state of shock, instability and uncertainty.
They came and told us, you have 4 days. On Friday, they cut electricity. On Monday, they destroyed the shops. How can you demolish 263 businesses that support 4 or 5 families each?
As demolitions continue, affected families remain caught between displacement and the loss of livelihoods, with no clear alternative in sight.
And with this, we come to the end of our edition. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being with us. Have a good night.